Secret societies have for centuries enticed people with their enigmatic nature. Behind closed doors, by candlelight, in the silence of cellars and mansions, where entry is forbidden to ordinary people, legends were born, feeding the imagination of generations. Illuminati and Masons, two names that have become synonymous with global conspiracies and secret world power. We see their symbols in films, musicians sing about them, their names are heard in the speeches of politicians and the sermons of priests. But what lies behind these images? Where does historical reality end and myth-making begin? Why do precisely these organizations, one of which officially ceased to exist over 200 years ago, and the other operates openly, evoke such strong emotions, from fear to awe? Our minds seek hidden forces controlling the chaos of world events. We crave to believe that powerful puppeteers stand behind the scenes of world history. It's easier to explain injustice, inequality, wars, and crises this way. But how much does this worldview correspond to reality? Let's separate the wheat from the chaff, historical documents from fiction, and see what the real connection is between the 18th century Illuminati and the Masonic movement that exists to this day. The history of Freemasonry is rooted in the mists of time, going back to when majestic Gothic cathedrals rose to the heavens throughout medieval Europe. In those distant days, when stone was the primary building material, master stonemasons united into guilds, professional communities that guarded the secrets of their craft. These individuals didn't merely hew stones, they created works of art, embodying complex mathematical principles and the philosophical ideas of their time in architecture. In the 13th and 14th centuries, stonemasons' guilds held a special status. Unlike other artisans, cathedral builders constantly moved from one construction site to another. To recognize each other in new places and to confirm their qualifications, they used special signs, passwords, and handshakes. These elements later formed the basis of Masonic rituals. A turning point in the movement's history occurred at the end of the 17th century. As new construction technologies developed and the Gothic style declined, guilds began to admit into their ranks people who had no connection to the building craft, gentlemen interested in philosophy, science, and art. Thus, quote, Zero Freemasonry was born, where physical work with stone gave way to the symbolic working of the, quote, One. On June 24, 1717, an event took place that forever changed the history of the movement. At the, quote, Two Tavern in London, 4 lodges united, creating the world's first Grand Lodge, an organization that became the prototype for all subsequent Masonic associations. This day is considered the official birth of modern Freemasonry. The new brotherhood attracted enlightened people of the Enlightenment era with its atmosphere of equality and intellectual freedom. Behind the closed doors of Masonic meetings, titles and social status lost their significance. A nobleman could sit next to a merchant, united by a common desire for self-improvement and the search for truth. Freemasons created a complex system of symbols borrowed from the building craft: the compass and square, the plumb and level, the stonemason's apron. All these items acquired deep philosophical meaning. The building of Solomon's Temple, the central myth of Freemasonry, became an allegory for man's spiritual growth and the construction of a just society. In the 18th century, Freemasonry rapidly spread throughout Europe and America. Lodges appeared in Paris and Berlin, Vienna and St. Petersburg. Many prominent figures of the time became members of the Brotherhood: philosophers and writers, musicians and scientists, military leaders and politicians. Masonic ideals of brotherhood, equality, and freedom resonated with the spirit of the Enlightenment. On May 1st, 1776, in the ancient Bavarian city of Ingolstadt, an event occurred that was destined to change the course of secret society's history. On this day, Adam Weishaupt, a professor of canon law at the local university, gathered 5 like-minded individuals in his modest dwelling. By candlelight, they swore allegiance to a new brotherhood, named the One. Who was Adam Weishaupt? This short, slender man with a penetrating gaze was born in 1748 into a Catholic family. Orphaned early, he was raised by Jesuits, which left an imprint on his entire life, but not at all the one his mentors had hoped for. A brilliant mind and critical thinking led young Weishaupt to reject dogmatism and religious control over education. At 27, he became the youngest professor at Ingolstadt University, where he taught canon law. However, behind the academic facade was a radical thinker, fascinated by the ideas of French Enlightenment figures, Voltaire, Rousseau, Diderot. In conservative Catholic Bavaria, where education and culture were controlled by Jesuits, such views could cost one's career and even freedom. It was this contradiction between official doctrine and personal convictions that prompted Weishaupt to create a secret society. He dreamed of a brotherhood that would unite the best minds of the era to fight superstition, religious fanaticism, and the despotism of rulers. In his vision, an enlightened elite was to gradually occupy key positions in society and guide humanity toward an age of reason and justice. The initial structure of the order was simple. Weishaupt developed a system of 3 degrees of initiation: novitiate, minerval, and illuminatus. Each stage revealed more information to the initiate about the organization's true goals. Novices studied classical literature and philosophy, unaware of the founder's political ambitions. It is important to understand that the Illuminati were not an anti-religious society in the modern sense. Weishaupt and his followers were deists. They believed in a supreme being who created the universe but rejected church dogmas and rituals. Their ideal was a society built on the principles of reason, where people were guided not by fear of divine punishment, but by an understanding of the natural laws of morality. The political program of the Illuminati gradually took shape. Initially, Weishaupt was a proponent of enlightened absolutism, a system in which the monarch rules according to rational principles. Later, influenced by Rousseau's ideas, he leaned towards more radical republican views, dreaming of a world without national borders and class privileges. The order grew rapidly. By 1780, it numbered over 300 members: professors, students, officials, doctors. However, Weishaupt understood that for real influence, it was necessary to attract people from the higher strata of society. And here he turned his attention to Masonic lodges, which already had representatives of the aristocracy and court among their ranks. The Order of the Illuminati was a complex, hierarchical structure meticulously designed by Adam Weishaupt for the gradual initiation of members into the organization's true goals. The system of degrees resembled a ladder of knowledge, where each new step revealed deeper secrets and truths. At the lowest rung were the novices, candidates undergoing a 1-year probationary period. During this time, the mentor carefully studied the novice's character, habits, and moral qualities without revealing the order's true objectives. The novice kept a diary, studied classical authors, and wrote philosophical essays, which were thoroughly analyzed by senior members. The second degree, the Minerval degree, was named after the Roman goddess of wisdom, Minerva. Minervals gathered in so-called Minerval academies, where they discussed philosophical texts and scientific discoveries. At this stage, a part of the Illuminati's teachings was revealed to them. But many political aspects still remained hidden. Higher degrees included minor Illuminati, Illuminati directors, and finally, Illuminati regents. Only upon reaching the highest degrees did a member of the order learn about Weishaupt's revolutionary political goals and his vision of an ideal society. The philosophy of the order was based on several key principles. Rationalism was the cornerstone of the Illuminati's teachings. Weishaupt believed that human reason was capable of knowing truth without the aid of divine revelation. He urged his followers to question authorities and traditions, seek evidence, and be guided by logic. Meritocracy, the rule of the most deserving, was the second important principle. The Illuminati believed that society should be governed not by hereditary aristocracy, but by people who had proven their intellectual and moral qualities. Within the order, advancement up the hierarchical ladder also depended solely on merit and ability. Particular attention was paid to methods of recruiting new members. Weishaupt developed an entire science of human physiognomy that helped identify potential candidates. They sought young, educated, wealthy individuals capable of influencing public opinion. Preference was given to those who held or could hold important positions in government, education, or the church. The training process within the order was meticulously planned. New members were given specially selected books and manuscripts, had philosophical discussions with them, gradually leading them to embrace the ideals of the Illuminati. Elements of psychological influence were used, rituals, oaths, symbolic ceremonies that created a sense of belonging to the chosen few. The ultimate goal of this system was to form a new intellectual elite, people freed from prejudices, religious dogmas, and blind submission to authority. This elite was to gradually occupy key positions in society and guide its development towards the ideals of the Enlightenment: reason, freedom, and equality. The 18th century truly became a golden age for the Masonic movement in Europe. If, at the beginning of the century, Freemasonry was predominantly an English phenomenon, by mid-century, Masonic lodges flourished across the entire continent, transforming into true centers of intellectual and social life. From Lisbon to St. Petersburg, from Stockholm to Naples, everywhere noble gentlemen and enlightened bourgeois gathered in their temples to work on perfecting themselves and society. In France, Freemasonry acquired a special brilliance and influence. Parisian lodges were attended by encyclopedist philosophers, aristocrats, and even members of the royal family. The famous lodge Les Neuf Sœurs, the Nine Sisters, became a true intellectual salon of the Enlightenment era. Among its members were Voltaire, Benjamin Franklin, and astronomer Joseph Lalande. It was this lodge that organized a solemn ceremony in memory of Voltaire after his death in 1778. In Germany, Freemasonry found fertile ground among the educated bourgeoisie and liberal nobility. Such outstanding minds as Goethe, Lessing, Herder not only became Masons, but also dedicated their works to the Brotherhood. Mozart's famous opera, The Magic Flute, is full of Masonic symbolism and reflects the ideals of the Brotherhood, the striving for wisdom, virtue, and harmony. Even crowned heads did not remain aloof from the Masonic movement. Prussian King Frederick the Great, Swedish King Gustav III, Austrian Emperor Franz I, all of them wore Masonic aprons. In Russia, Freemasonry flourished under Catherine the Great, attracting the cream of the nobility into its ranks, from Novikov to Suvorov. Masonic lodges became unique laboratories of new social relations. Behind their doors, where the address "Brother" was applied to everyone regardless of title and status, a new political culture was formed. The ideals of brotherhood, equality, and mutual aid practiced by Masons resonated with the spirit of the Enlightenment and gradually penetrated public consciousness. In Masonic temples, not only philosophical and moral questions were discussed, but also pressing societal problems, education, charity, civil liberties. Many lodges established schools for the poor, hospitals, and orphanages. Masons actively participated in the dissemination of scientific knowledge and supported the arts and literature. It was in this atmosphere of intellectual ferment and social experimentation that the Order of the Illuminati emerged, which attempted to use Masonic structures to spread its more radical ideas. But before this attempt occurred, Freemasonry had already become a powerful force shaping a new European consciousness, more rational, more secular, more oriented towards the ideals of freedom and progress. By the mid-1770s, Adam Weishaupt faced a serious problem. His young Order of the Illuminati, despite the enthusiasm of its early followers, was not developing quickly enough. The influence of the Illuminati remained limited to a narrow circle of intellectuals in Ingolstadt and a few other Bavarian cities. To realize ambitious plans for societal transformation, something more was needed: access to levers of power, connections with influential people, and an extensive network of like-minded individuals. It was then that Weishaupt's gaze turned to Freemasonry, an organization that already possessed everything the Illuminati lacked. Masonic lodges united the elite of society: aristocrats, officers, government officials, and wealthy merchants. They had significant financial resources and a well-established system of communication between lodges in different cities and countries. Moreover, Freemasonry already had a developed system of rituals and symbols that could be imbued with new content. In 1777, Weishaupt himself joined the Masonic Lodge in Munich. Having studied the structure and methods of Freemasonry from within, he developed a strategy that he called, quote, 1. Its essence was for members of the Order of the Illuminati to join various Masonic lodges, gradually advance through the Masonic hierarchy, and, having achieved a certain influence, begin to attract other Masons into the ranks of the Illuminati. Weishaupt's most important ally in this plan was Baron Adolf von Knigge, who joined the order in 1780. An aristocrat, writer, and experienced Mason, Knigge had extensive connections in German Masonic circles. It was he who transformed the strategy of infiltration into Freemasonry from theory into practice. Knigge succeeded in convincing many Masons, especially those disillusioned with traditional Freemasonry, that the Illuminati offered deeper secret knowledge and a more effective path to social transformation. He developed a new system of degrees of initiation that skillfully combined Masonic rituals with Illuminati ideology. This hybrid system allowed high-degree Masons to smoothly transition into the ranks of the Illuminati without feeling a sharp break from their former beliefs. The Illuminati achieved their greatest success in infiltrating lodges of eclectic Masonry and the strict observance system, popular Masonic movements in Germany at the time. By 1783, about 15 Masonic lodges in Bavaria, Saxony, Frankfurt, Vienna, and other Central European cities were under the influence of the Illuminati. However, this strategy also had an adverse effect. Many traditional Masons viewed the Illuminati with suspicion, seeing them as a threat to the ancient principles and traditions of the Brotherhood. Conservative Masonic lodges, especially those connected with the British tradition, actively resisted the infiltration of the Illuminati, rumors began to circulate in Masonic circles about the Illuminati's radical political views, their anti-religious orientation, and their subversive activities. The decline of the Order of Illuminati began as swiftly as its rise. By 1785, Bavarian authorities, alarmed by the growing influence of secret societies, began to take decisive measures against them. On June 22, Karl Theodor, the Elector of Bavaria, issued an edict prohibiting the creation of societies and fraternities without special government permission. Although the document did not directly mention the Illuminati, it was clear that the blow was aimed precisely at them and similar organizations. However, the real catastrophe for the order occurred several months later. In October 1786, Bavarian police raided the home of Xaver von Zwack, a prominent member of the order and advisor to Duke Somme-Keuerberg. The documents discovered left no doubt about the radical nature of the organization. Among the papers were found instructions for making seals for forging documents, recipes for poisons and abortifacients, plans for creating a female branch of the order, and, most dangerously, materials criticizing monarchy and religion. On February 11, 1787, a new edict from the Elector followed, this time directly naming the Illuminati and Freemasons. Membership in these organizations was declared high treason, punishable by death. Mass arrests began. Many Illuminati lost their positions, were expelled from universities, and some were imprisoned. Adam Weishaupt himself, warned of his impending arrest, was forced to flee Bavaria. On a cold February night, disguised in peasant clothes, he crossed the border and found refuge in the neighboring Duchy of Saxe-Gotha, ruled by the enlightened Duke Ernst, who sympathized with the ideals of the Enlightenment. There, the founder of the order spent the rest of his life, engaging in literary activities and attempting to justify his views in the public eye. To amplify the effect of the order's defeat, the Bavarian authorities made an unprecedented decision: to publish the confiscated Illuminati documents. In 1787, the first volume of, quote, Zero was released, followed by others. These publications had the effect of a bombshell in European society. Now, any literate person could read the secret instructions, oaths, and plans of an organization considered subversive. The reaction of European society to the Illuminati's exposure was mixed. Conservative circles saw in it confirmation of their fears regarding the danger of secret societies. Church figures pointed to the anti-religious nature of the order as proof of the moral danger of Enlightenment ideas. At the same time, many intellectuals considered the persecution of the Illuminati a manifestation of reactionary politics and a threat to freedom of thought. These events resonated particularly strongly in France, where the revolution began 2 years later. Many saw the Illuminati as harbingers and even secret organizers of revolutionary upheavals, although no direct evidence of such a connection existed. This association laid the foundation for future conspiracy theories linking the Illuminati to various revolutionary movements. As for the former members of the order, their fates varied. Some publicly renounced their involvement and were pardoned. Others secretly maintained connections, hoping for the organization's revival in the future. Still others genuinely joined revolutionary movements, seeing in them a continuation of Enlightenment ideals. Baron von Knigge, the second in command of the order's hierarchy, completely withdrew from secret societies and dedicated himself to literary activity, publishing the famous treatise On Human Intercourse. The French Revolution of 1789 became the crystallization point for the first large-scale conspiracy theories linking the Illuminati and the Masons. When the Bastille fell, and then the monarchy, conservative Europe stood in horror at the unprecedented social upheavals. Traditional society sought explanations for what was happening, and found it not in objective economic and political contradictions, but in a secret conspiracy of subversive elements, allegedly preparing a revolutionary explosion for years. The first and perhaps most influential creator of this conspiratorial version of history was the French abbot Augustin Barruel. Having fled the revolutionary terror to England, this Jesuit and monarchist published a 4-volume work, Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism, in 1797. In this extensive work, Barruel put forward a sensational theory. The French Revolution was the result of a meticulously planned conspiracy organized by 3 secret forces: philosophers, encyclopedists, Masons, and Illuminati. According to Barruel's version, the Illuminati not only did not disappear after their official ban in Bavaria, but managed to seize control of European Freemasonry. Using Masonic lodges as a cover, they created an extensive network of revolutionary cells ready to start an uprising at a signal. The abbot claimed to have found a direct link between the Bavarian Illuminati and the French Jacobins, between Weishaupt's ideas and the practice of revolutionary terror. Almost simultaneously with Barruel, in Scotland, Professor John Robison of the University of Edinburgh published his work Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All the Religions and Governments of Europe. Unfamiliar with Barruel's work, Robison came to surprisingly similar conclusions. As a high-degree Mason, he claimed to have insider information on how the Illuminati had infiltrated Masonic lodges and perverted their original noble goals. Both authors, despite differences in details, created the first coherent conspiratorial worldview, where the secret society of the Illuminati appeared as an invisible hand pulling the strings of world events. This picture proved to be surprisingly resilient. It provided a simple explanation for complex historical processes and allowed for the personification of abstract social forces. In the United States of America, a young republic still forming its political culture, Barruel's and Robison's ideas found fertile ground. In 1800, when the country was torn by contradictions between Federalists and Republicans, the first American pamphlets appeared, warning of the danger of the Illuminati. Preacher Jedediah Morse warned his parishioners from the pulpit that the Illuminati had infiltrated America and were preparing to destroy religion and traditional values. Thus was born the enduring myth of the secret survival of the Order of the Illuminati after its official ban. According to this version, the organization did not disappear but went deep underground, continuing to control Masonic lodges and other secret societies. This idea proved so appealing that it outlived its creators and has survived to this day, constantly adapting to new historical conditions and absorbing the current fears of each era. After the official ban of the Order of the Illuminati and the subsequent conspiracy theories, the Masonic movement entered a new era of its development. The 19th century brought Freemasonry both periods of flourishing and serious trials, forever changing the appearance of this ancient brotherhood. In France, after the revolutionary upheavals, Freemasonry underwent a profound transformation. Napoleon Bonaparte, though not a Mason himself, recognized the potential benefit of the brotherhood for strengthening his regime. In 1804, the Grand Orient of France was created, uniting the majority of French lodges under the aegis of the empire. Napoleon placed his brother Joseph and then Marshal Murat at the head of this organization. Freemasonry became a peculiar instrument of imperial policy, spreading along with Napoleon's armies throughout Europe. In England, on the contrary, Freemasonry retained its traditional character and close connection with the monarchy. In 1813, a historic unification of two rival Grand Lodges, the "O" and the "1", occurred, forming the United Grand Lodge of England, which became a recognized authority in the Masonic world. English Freemasonry emphasized its loyalty to the crown, adherence to Christian values, and rejection of political activity. This division into "2" and "3" Freemasonry became decisive for the further development of the movement. In 1877, the Grand Orient of France excluded the requirement of belief in the great architect of the universe, the Masonic designation for God, from its statutes, which led to a rupture of relations with English Freemasonry. Thus, the concept of Freemasonry, which exists to this day, was formed. In the United States, Freemasonry experienced a real boom after the War of Independence. Many founding fathers, including George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, were active Masons. American Freemasonry developed along the English model but acquired unique features reflecting the democratic character of the young republic. Masonic lodges became centers of social life in new settlements, contributing to the formation of civil society. However, in the 1820s and 30s, America was swept by a wave of anti-Masonic sentiment caused by the mysterious disappearance of William Morgan, who threatened to reveal the Brotherhood's secrets. This led to the creation of the first anti-Masonic party in U.S. history and a temporary decline of the movement. In Russia, Freemasonry, banned by Alexander I in 1822, was revived only at the beginning of the 20th century, during a period of liberal reforms. Russian Masons, predominantly from the liberal intelligentsia, were connected with the Grand Orient of France and held progressive political views. The second half of the 19th century brought Freemasonry new philosophical concepts. During this time, para-Masonic organizations such as the Order of the Eastern Star, which admitted women, and numerous youth Masonic groups appeared. Freemasonry increasingly transformed from an elite club into a mass fraternal movement, with a strong emphasis on charity and mutual aid. The 20th century became a period of the most severe trials for Freemasonry. Totalitarian regimes, fascist in Italy, Nazi in Germany, Francoist in Spain, persecuted Masons with particular cruelty. Thousands of brothers died in concentration camps, Masonic temples were plundered, archives destroyed. In the Soviet Union and Eastern Bloc countries, Freemasonry was banned as a bourgeois organization. After World War II, a gradual revival of Freemasonry began in Western Europe. In Eastern European countries and the former USSR, Masonic lodges reappeared only after the fall of communist regimes in the late 80s and early 90s. Today, Freemasonry is a global movement uniting millions of people of different nationalities, religions, and social strata. It retains its traditional rituals and symbolism, but adapts to modern realities, paying more attention to transparency and public activity. The history of anti-Masonic sentiment is as long as the history of Freemasonry itself. Almost from its inception, the fraternity of stonemasons aroused suspicion and fear among various political and religious forces. These fears were not unfounded. The closed nature of the organization, secret rituals, and oaths indeed created fertile ground for speculation and conjecture. However, the scale of persecution of Masons in different historical periods shows that these campaigns were driven not only by fears of the unknown, but also by very specific political interests. The first official anti-Masonic campaign began in 1738, when Pope Clement XII issued the bull In Eminenti, condemning Freemasonry and forbidding Catholics from joining lodges under threat of excommunication. This document marked the beginning of a long confrontation between the Catholic Church and Freemasonry, which lasted more than 2 centuries. The Papal See saw Masons not only as a religious threat due to their tolerance of different faiths, but also as a political danger to the monarchical system and the influence of the Church. In the absolute monarchies of Europe, Freemasonry also aroused suspicion among the authorities. Russian Empress Catherine the Great, who initially favored Masons, changed her attitude by the end of her reign. After the French Revolution, many European monarchs saw Masonic lodges as hotbeds of revolutionary ideas. Austrian Emperor Franz II, in 1801, issued a decree prohibiting the activities of secret societies, including Masonic lodges, within the empire. A special case is the anti-Masonic movement in the United States in the 1820s and 30s. It began after the mysterious disappearance of William Morgan, who was preparing to publish a book exposing Masonic secrets. The public was convinced that Morgan had been abducted and murdered by Masons, although no direct evidence of this was found. This event triggered a powerful wave of anti-Masonic sentiment, leading to the creation of the Anti-Masonic Party, the first third party in American political history. Freemasonry was accused not only of political intrigues, but also of religious free-thinking, immorality, and secret service to the devil. In the 19th century, the French writer and hoaxer Leo Taxil published a series of exposures, claiming that the higher degrees of Freemasonry were connected to satanic cults. He later confessed to the hoax, but his books continued to be cited as a reliable source for many decades. In the 20th century, anti-Masonry reached its peak in totalitarian regimes. Fascist Italy, Nazi Germany, Francoist Spain, and Stalin's Soviet Union declared a real war on Masonic organizations. In Germany, after the Nazis came to power, Masonic lodges were dissolved, their property confiscated, and many Masons were sent to concentration camps. Nazi propaganda linked Freemasonry with a global Jewish conspiracy, using anti-Semitic and anti-Masonic theories interchangeably. In the Soviet Union, Freemasonry was declared a bourgeois organization, an instrument of capitalist influence. Many former Masons were subjected to repression in the 20s and 30s. Official propaganda portrayed Masons as agents of foreign intelligence and enemies of the working class. All these historical waves of anti-Masonic persecution had one common feature. They occurred during periods of social instability and political crises, when authorities and society sought simple explanations for complex problems. Freemasonry, with its closed nature and international ties, ideally suited the role of a secret enemy manipulating historical processes from behind the scenes. The image of the Illuminati in pop culture has undergone an astonishing evolution, from a little-known historical phenomenon to an omnipresent symbol of global conspiracy. This journey began in 1975 with the publication of the Illuminatus Trilogy by authors Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson. This satirical work blended historical facts about the Bavarian Illuminati with elements of science fiction, psychedelic culture, and alternative conspiracy theories. The book became a cult classic among countercultural youth and laid the foundation for the modern myth of the Illuminati as a secret force manipulating world events for centuries. The 1980s brought a new wave of interest in secret societies. The tabletop game Illuminati, created by Steve Jackson, turned conspiracy theories into mass entertainment. Players took on the roles of various secret groups vying for world domination. The game, originally conceived as satire, became a window into the world of conspiracy for many. The true breakthrough of the Illuminati into popular culture occurred in the 90s. Dan Brown's trilogy, which began with, quote, 3, introduced the Illuminati to the broader public as ancient enemies of the Catholic Church. Although historically the order existed for less than a decade and was never an anti-Catholic terrorist organization, the image created by Brown so captured the imagination of readers that many began to perceive his artistic fiction as historical fact. Hollywood could not stay away from such a fertile topic. Films like, quote, 4, 5, and adaptations of Brown's works depicted the Illuminati as a sinister organization with an ancient history, keepers of dangerous secrets and technologies. In the action film Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, the Illuminati appear as an ancient order controlling the flow of time. In Angels and Demons, they are portrayed as a secret scientific brotherhood, seeking revenge on the church for persecution. The music industry also contributed to the popularization of the myth. Many artists, from Madonna to Jay-Z, used symbolism associated with the Illuminati in their music videos. The all-seeing eye, pyramids, triangles. Some did this as an artistic device, others to create an aura of mystery around their image. Conspiracy theorists, however, saw this as proof of the Illuminati's control over the entertainment industry. With the development of the Internet, the image of the Illuminati underwent a new transformation. Thousands of videos appeared on YouTube, celebrities' ties to the secret society. Any gesture, an accidentally formed triangle with fingers, even a blink at a certain moment, were interpreted as secret signs of involvement in the order. Internet memes turned a serious conspiracy theory into a subject of jokes and parodies. Video games picked up on this theme, creating entire virtual universes around the Illuminati. In the Deus Ex series, players encounter a world where the Illuminati control technological development and manipulate global events. The Assassin's Creed game presents an alternative history where the Templars, often associated with the Illuminati in conspiracy literature, wage a centuries-old war with the Assassins for artifacts of an ancient civilization. Interestingly, fictional works and real conspiracy theories constantly feed each other. Elements invented by writers for an engaging plot later appear in serious conspiracy works as facts. Conversely, film and book authors draw inspiration from real conspiracy theories, creating increasingly intricate and captivating stories. This blurred line between fact and fiction is a key feature of the modern myth of the Illuminati. For millions of people around the world, it no longer matters whether the real order of the Bavarian Illuminati existed for only 9 years in the 18th century. In their minds lives an image created by the collective creativity of writers, directors, musicians, and internet users. The image of an eternal, omnipotent secret society, invisibly guiding the course of history. In the world of modern conspiracy theories, the Illuminati and Masons hold a special place. They have become archetypes of secret power, symbols of invisible control over the world. The theory that the elite of world Freemasonry is controlled by the descendants of the Bavarian Illuminati has become one of the cornerstones of modern conspiracism. But how much do these ideas correspond to reality? Let's examine the main arguments of the proponents of this theory and analyze them from the perspective of historical facts and logic. A central element of modern conspiracy theories is the concept of a, quote, zero, a global government secretly managing international processes. According to this theory, the higher degrees of Freemasonry serve as a cover for the activities of the descendants of the Illuminati, who control the world financial system, international organizations, and the governments of leading powers. One of the main, quote, one of this theory, according to its proponents, is the symbolism on the US dollar bill, a pyramid with a detached capstone and an all-seeing eye. Conspiracists argue that this is a clear Masonic and Illuminati symbol, demonstrating the control of secret societies over the American financial system. However, historians note that the design of the bill was developed in 1935, and the symbolism reflects not Masonic ideas, but concepts from the, quote, "two," created back in the 18th century, and symbolizing divine providence over the young republic. Another, quote, is considered to be the geometric layout of Washington, D.C., allegedly containing Masonic symbols. Indeed, among the city's designers were Masons, including George Washington himself. However, the architectural solutions reflected not a secret code, but the popular neoclassical style of the time and practical considerations of urban planning. Conspiracists often point to the membership of many world leaders, bankers, and industrialists in Masonic lodges as evidence of a global network of influence. However, upon closer inspection, this network turns out to be not so monolithic. Masonic organizations in different countries often do not recognize each other, have different rituals and philosophical views. The very idea of a unified, hierarchical structure of world Freemasonry does not correspond to reality. One of the main logical paradoxes of the Illuminati conspiracy theory is this: if the order is indeed so powerful and controls all aspects of world politics and economics, why does it allow the publication of incriminating materials about itself? Why does it allow critics and researchers who expose its secrets to exist? This question usually remains unanswered. Psychologists and sociologists identify several reasons for the popularity of conspiracy theories about the Illuminati and Masons. Firstly, they offer simple explanations for complex phenomena. Economic crises, wars, social conflicts, everything receives a unified explanation through the prism of a secret conspiracy. Secondly, these theories give a sense of belonging to secret knowledge, inaccessible to the majority. Thirdly, they provide a clear image of an enemy to whom responsibility for all problems can be assigned. Conspiracy theories are particularly actively spread during periods of social instability and economic crises. When traditional institutions and authorities lose trust, people seek alternative explanations for what is happening. The Internet has significantly accelerated the spread of such theories, creating echo chambers where like-minded individuals reinforce each other's beliefs without encountering critical evaluation of their convictions. Paradoxically, many modern conspiracists who claim to expose the secrets of the Illuminati are actually continuing a tradition begun by Abbe Baruel and John Robison more than 200 years ago. Their arguments, methodology, and even rhetoric are strikingly similar, despite a radically changed world. Examining historical facts, we see that the real Bavarian Illuminati were a product of their time, the Age of Enlightenment with its faith in reason and progress. Their organization existed for less than 10 years and was destroyed long before most of the events attributed to them. Attempts to link modern Freemasonry with the 18th century Illuminati do not stand up to historical criticism and resemble myth-making more than serious analysis. Modern Freemasonry differs substantially from the image painted by conspiracy theories. Behind the closed doors of Masonic lodges, there is no planning for world domination, but rather work based on centuries-old traditions of brotherhood, charity, and self-improvement. According to official data, there are currently about 6 million Masons worldwide, united in thousands of lodges under the jurisdiction of various Grand Lodges and Grand Orients. The structure of modern Freemasonry is decentralized. there is no single global Masonic government or supreme leader. Each sovereign Masonic jurisdiction, a Grand Lodge or Grand Orient, is independent in its decisions and policies. At the same time, complex relationships of recognition and non-recognition exist between different Masonic organizations, based on adherence to certain traditions and principles. Regular Freemasonry, represented by the United Grand Lodge of England and the jurisdictions recognized by it, requires its members to believe in a supreme being and prohibits the discussion of politics and religion at meetings. Liberal Freemasonry, exemplified by the Grand Orient of France, does not impose religious requirements and is more open to public discussions. These two branches of Freemasonry do not recognize each other and have significant differences in rituals and philosophy. The main activities of modern Masonic organizations are centered around three areas: ritual work in lodges, educational activities, and charity. Masonic rituals, rooted in the traditions of medieval building guilds, are dramatic performances with deep symbolic content aimed at the moral improvement of the participants. Charity has always been an integral part of the Masonic tradition. Today, Masonic organizations worldwide support hospitals, educational institutions, and programs for the elderly and children. In the United States alone, Masonic charitable foundations donate approximately $2 million daily to various public needs. Masonic hospitals for children with orthopedic conditions, burn injuries, and other serious problems provide free care regardless of the family's ability to pay for treatment. The interaction of modern Freemasonry with the state and society is built on the principles of law-abidingness and transparency. Masonic lodges are registered as non-profit organizations, maintain official records, and pay taxes. In many countries, information about Masonic organizations, their leadership, and activities is publicly available. The fundamental differences between the historical Illuminati and modern Freemasonry are evident upon objective examination. The Order of the Illuminati was created with specific political goals and had a centralized structure. Its founder, Adam Weishaupt, sought radical social transformations and used conspiratorial methods of work. Modern Freemasonry, in contrast, emphasizes its apolitical nature, respect for the existing social order, and the laws of the countries where lodges operate. Freemasonry openly publishes its core principles and values. Books on Masonic philosophy, history, and symbolism are available in regular bookstores and libraries. Many lodges hold open days where anyone can visit a Masonic temple and ask questions. This openness sharply contrasts with the image of a secret society manipulating world events from the shadows. Why are we so susceptible to the idea of a global conspiracy? What makes millions of people believe in a secret government of Illuminati, controlling Masons and ruling the world from the shadows? The answer lies in the very nature of human thinking and the peculiarities of our perception of complex social processes. Our minds are evolutionarily tuned to search for patterns and cause and effect relationships. Thousands of years ago, this ability helped our ancestors survive, to see the connection between tracks on the ground and a predator, between certain plants and disease. But the same mechanism can malfunction, creating illusions of connections where none exist. Psychologists call this apophenia, the tendency to see meaningful patterns in random data. When we encounter complex, convoluted phenomena such as economic crises or geopolitical conflicts, our minds seek simple, understandable explanations. The theory of a secret society pulling the strings of world events offers precisely such a simplification. Instead of a multitude of independent factors, coincidences, and unforeseen consequences, one powerful conspirator with a clear plan. This feature of thinking is amplified by so-called intentional bias, the tendency to attribute a deliberate nature to events. We prefer to see someone's intent behind what is happening, rather than a random confluence of circumstances. It is easier to explain an economic crisis by the malicious intent of Illuminati bankers than by systemic imbalances and a multitude of independent decisions by market participants. Belief in conspiracy theories fulfills important psychological functions. It gives a sense of control over the situation. Paradoxically, knowing about the existence of a conspiracy creates an illusion of predictability in the world. If everything is controlled by a secret elite, then what is happening is not chaotic, but subject to a plan, albeit a sinister one. This belief also provides a sense of belonging to the chosen few who possess secret knowledge. In a world where traditional communities are breaking down and social ties are weakening, conspiracy theory forums and groups create new forms of solidarity. United by common social and historical factors, amplify these psychological tendencies. Periods of social crises, economic instability, and rapid technological changes have always been accompanied by a surge in conspiracy theories. The feeling of losing control over one's life, distrust of elites and institutions of power create fertile ground for belief in secret forces. This is especially evident in the era of globalization, when the actual centers of decision-making are often removed from ordinary citizens, and the complexity of global processes exceeds the capabilities of ordinary understanding. Closed international forums, such as the Bilderberg Group or the Davos Economic Forum, where the world's elite indeed gather, are easily transformed in the popular imagination into assemblies of Illuminati, planning the fate of the world. The internet and social media have radically changed the landscape of conspiracy theory dissemination. If previously they circulated in narrow circles through samizdat and specialized literature, now social platform algorithms actively promote content that elicits strong emotional reactions. Conspiracy videos and articles perfectly fit these criteria. Algorithmic filter bubbles amplify the effect. A person who shows interest in one conspiracy theory receives more and more similar content, gradually immersing themselves in an alternative information reality where their beliefs are constantly reinforced by new evidence. Cognitive biases play a key role in maintaining belief in conspiracy theories, even in the face of contradictory facts. Confirmation bias causes us to notice and remember information that confirms our beliefs, and to ignore contradictory information. The backfire effect means that attempts to debunk false beliefs with facts often only strengthen belief in them. In the case of the Illuminati and Masons, the situation is complicated by the fact that the history of these organizations contains real elements of secrecy and influence. The Bavarian Illuminati did indeed seek to infiltrate Masonic lodges to spread their ideas. Masonic organizations did indeed unite the political and intellectual elites of various countries. These historical facts create a basis upon which fantastic theories about a centuries-old secret government are then built. Between fact and fiction, what can we really say about the actual connections between Illuminati and Freemasons? Concluding our investigation, it is important to clearly distinguish documented historical facts from mythologized notions created by generations of conspiracy theorists and pop culture figures. The first and main fact: the Order of the Bavarian Illuminati indeed existed, but for a very short time, from May 1st, 1776 to 1787. It was an organization of its time, born from the ideals of the Enlightenment and opposing religious dogmatism and absolutism. It was not an ancient, secret society that had existed for centuries, as modern myths claim. The second fact: the Illuminati did try to use Masonic structures to spread their ideas. Adam Weishaupt and his followers saw in Masonic lodges a ready-made network of influential people who shared many Enlightenment values. This strategy had limited success in some German states, but never led to the Illuminati gaining complete control over Freemasonry. The third fact: after its prohibition in Bavaria, the Order of the Illuminati ceased organized existence. Despite the claims of conspiracy theorists, there is no historical evidence that the order survived persecution and continued to operate underground. Individual former members might have maintained connections and shared ideals, but as a structured organization, the Illuminati ceased to exist. The fourth fact: modern Freemasonry has no organizational continuity with the Order of the Illuminati. Masonic organizations developed along their own path, enduring periods of prosperity and persecution, dividing into various rites and jurisdictions. The idea that the top of modern Freemasonry is secretly controlled by the Illuminati finds no confirmation in historical documents. Why has the myth of the Illuminati-Masonic merger proven so enduring? Partially, this is explained by the psychological need for simple explanations of a complex world. It is easier to believe in a single conspiracy than to accept the chaos and unpredictability of historical processes. Furthermore, the secretive nature of Masonic organizations and the actual historical attempts by the Illuminati to infiltrate their structures created fertile ground for speculation. The information age has brought new challenges and opportunities for the spread of conspiracy theories. The Internet allows instantaneous dissemination of information of any quality, blurring the lines between fact and fiction. Social media algorithms often promote sensational content, including conspiracy theories, creating closed information bubbles where critical thinking gives way to the confirmation of existing beliefs. How, then, can we separate fact from fiction in the informational noise? The key principle is a critical approach to sources. Information about secret societies must be evaluated by the same standards as any historical claim. Is it based on primary sources? Is it confirmed by independent research? Does it align with known historical facts and logic? It is also important to understand the context in which conspiracy theories arise. Many myths about the Illuminati and Freemasons were born in specific historical circumstances, as a reaction to the French Revolution, as a tool of political struggle, as an explanation for social upheavals. Knowing this context makes it easier to separate historical facts from ideological constructs. Finally, it is worth remembering Occam's razor. If a phenomenon can be explained without resorting to complex conspiracy theories, the simpler explanation is more likely. World events are more often the result of numerous independent decisions, systemic factors, and unforeseen consequences, rather than the implementation of a single secret plan. The history of the Illuminati and Freemasons is not only a lesson in critical thinking, but also a reminder of the power of ideas. The Enlightenment ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity, which inspired both the Illuminati and Freemasons, changed the world not through secret conspiracy, but through open dissemination and gradual societal acceptance. In this, perhaps, lies the main lesson from the history of secret societies. Ideas are stronger when they emerge from the shadows into the light.